day, but we should start to see something a little bit brighter developing from the west later on as that all pushes away towards the east. Temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than today across northern parts and feeling it with those lighter winds, but further towards the southeast, similar temperatures getting into the mid-20s. Now into Sunday, there could be a fair bit of cloud across central southern parts for a time, perhaps the odd spot of.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Alex, can you tell us about Tom Cruise's diet?
Tom Cruise's diet, I mean, so there was the story today in the Daily Mail talking about the fact that obviously, you know, the guy has a very, very strict diet. He pretty much has no alcohol in his diet, has very strict times he eats. He only eats meat and fish.
Isn't happy.
And actually, can I just say, I think this is very depressing. You know, life is short. I don't know why people have, and lots of my friends who go to the gym, they're absolutely obsessed with only having chicken and rice and barely any sauce on it. It's just, what's the point, you know?
You make a good point. Life is short. What do they...
And so is Tom Cruise.
YOLO, you only live once.
Yeah, YOLO.
But then you can live your life as you want to live it. So if you want to live it the healthiest person ever in the whole world, then, you know, that's your one life.
But you raised a great point in the meeting today, which is 64 old anymore? It's not, sort of 62. It's not old, is it?
No.
62 is the new 40.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, Tom Cruise is a multi-millionaire. Doesn't he want to just, like, relax and enjoy his life now? Why is he still getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go to the gym and eating chicken breast with no sauce on it?
OK, Tom Cruise is another one of these driven people. Tom Cruise is absolutely 100% driven to drive a fighter pilot aeroplane. I mean, how could you actually learn to drive a plane? He is so driven, he is so disciplined, and when you're that disciplined, you know about blood, alcohol, you know, sugar spikes. I bet you he drinks vinegar. Bet you any money he's into gut health. I'm telling you, gut health is in. Everyone's talking about gut health.
But what's the point when you're 62?
No,
I'm hoping when I'm 62 that I'll just chill out.
He doesn't.
No way.
He doesn't need the money either. He can just chill. Like,
no, he doesn't want to chill. He so doesn't want to chill. I tell you what, in Hollywood, because my husband's a film producer, in Hollywood, you know, when they retire, they're either 90 or they're dead.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. Buckingham Palace says His Majesty the King has praised the way community spirit and compassion have countered the aggression and criminality on display during the riots. King Charles had been in phone conversations tonight with the Prime Minister and police chiefs. Sir Keir Starmer has reiterated that police should remain on high alert going into the weekend. Earlier, a 30-year-old man was jailed for 8 months for racially aggravated intentional harassment during the riots in Leeds. The judge said Jordan Plain's sentence was reduced to take his guilty plea into account. Meanwhile, a Facebook user who urged people to attack a Leeds hotel used to house asylum seekers was also jailed today. 28-year-old Jordan Parlow was sentenced to 20 months after pleading guilty to publishing written material intended to stir racial hatred. Merseyside police have released CCTV images of 12 people following recent disorder in the area. Previous weeks have seen widespread violence across the UK, linked to anti-immigrant groups, as mosques were also attacked and hotels holding asylum seekers targeted. Courts are already sentencing people for taking part in the violence, with jail terms of up to 3 years handed down so far. Former Labour councillor Ricky Jones has been remanded in custody after appearing in court on charges of encouraging violent disorder at a rally organised by Stand Up to Racism. Jones was filmed addressing a crowd at the London demonstration on Wednesday evening. The 57-year-old was charged at Westminster Magistrates Court, which heard he gave a speech to a crowd which was capable of encouraging or assisting the commission of violent disorder. Plea and trial preparation has been set for the 6th of September. There are no survivors after a plane carrying 62 people plummeted into a residential area just north of Sao Paulo in Brazil. That is according to local authorities. And if you're watching us on television now, you can see the footage of the plane drifting downwards and spiralling as it falls, crashing through trees and breaking into a plume of smoke. The state's fire brigade has confirmed that 7 crews have been dispatched to the crash site. The airline Vopas says there were 58 passengers and 4 crew members on board that flight. No survivors, and a state official says the black box from the plane has now been found. And the Algerian boxer at the centre of a gender row at the Paris Games has been crowned Olympic champion. Iman Khalif comfortably beat China's Yang Liu by unanimous decision to win gold in the women's welterweight final. Khalif won each of the 3 rounds on the judges' scorecards. Khalif had been under intense scrutiny after a previous opponent quit after 46 seconds, saying it was to protect her health, as the Algerian's punches were too strong. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. Now it is time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Saturday's newspapers with 3 comedians. I'm Andrew Doyle. Tonight I'm joined by Headliners Colossus Leo Kearse and his hired goon, Jonathan Cogan.
Hired goon?
Yeah, hired goon.
I have spent all day gooning in my goon cave, but I wouldn't necessarily... I'm more of a sort of work experience part-time goon.
Part-time goon, I should have been more specific.
Yeah,
How are you, Leo?
I'm good. I don't even know what gooning is.
Well, it's not really a Scottish thing, the whole gooning.
Everyone should look it up and just write in.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing to do with the Goonies, by the way.
No.
They weren't goons.
No, they were... I need to see that. For tellies?
They were very good.
That's all I know. I haven't seen it.
Very good.
I'm way too hot in this light. Look at me. Well, I look good, though.
You do look wonderful. OK, let's have a look at the front pages before we crack on. The Daily Mail is leading with BBC tells villain Huw hand back £200,000 of pay. The Express says King calls for unity in wake of riots. And the Times is leading with King hails riots response. And the Telegraph has King calls for unity in the wake of riots, same headline. The Guardian, universities face tipping point as money runs out, oh dear. And finally the Daily Star, psst, want to buy some paper clips. That's about stealing from work apparently, which none of us would ever do. Those were your front pages. Right, we're going to kick off with Saturday's Express, and Leo has the details.
So the King calls for unity in the wake of riots. So the King has praised Britain's community spirit in the face of the riots. He said he really enjoyed watching them, and he hopes everybody had fun. No, I mean, I think he's coming out to condemn them. I mean,
it's a bit late, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a bit late.
It's been going on for a while now.
We could have done with these words, you know, when the riots were kicking off. Keir Starmer should have given these words when the riot was kicking off, instead of just coming out and inflaming the situation and condemning one side and not acknowledging that anybody might have a legitimate grievance that some children have been killed.
In Belfast, apparently, if you observe the riots, that's sufficient to get you arrested.
Yeah, and
was the King just observing this week? Is that the point?
And without bail as well, which
right?
is really a form of punishment. Considering Huw Edwards got bail to return home and bury whatever else he's got in his garden.
Sorry, if you're just observing, watching in the streets,
yes.
Not even if you like throw a can through a window, if you're just standing there,
yes.
that But that's insane.
And does the person...
I mean, obviously you shouldn't be rioting, but to watch...
Does the person who's observing that person who's observing, did they get in trouble as well?
Ad infinitum.
So what worries me about all of this is they seem to be introducing a lot of new rules. We all knew what the rules were, right? So if you break the law, you get prosecuted, which I'm all for. I think if you're going to cause riots and smash stuff up, you should be prosecuted. I think if you're walking by...
Unless it's for BLM. I mean, if somebody's killed a black criminal in another country, then for some reason that's absolutely fine. If he dies, resisting arrest, then...
Yeah, but you see, I was always consistent on
this. For some reason, that's an innocent victim.
No, those people should also be arrested. That's the point. Like, just rioters, generally, I don't care if you're on the left, on the right, or wherever the hell you are. But we all knew what the rules were, and now they're talking about sort of revising various online safety bill, nonsense, and they're talking about you can get arrested if you go to the bingo and you walk past.
Creeping authoritarianism.
I mean, it really, I think something very sinister is happening now.
Yeah, and it feels like the way that they're showing people's faces and names. I think when they've just been arrested, before they've been charged, and they're rushing through, they're doing these 24-hour courts, so they rush through the sentencing and everything. So the person doesn't have time to brief a solicitor or prepare a defence or anything like that.
Delete their internet history, it's...
Well, I think there will be a lot of appeals against these sentences because, 3 years for posting nasty stuff on Facebook. I mean, they shouldn't, their wallies shouldn't be posting nasty stuff, shouldn't be inciting any violence or anything like that. That's obviously a terrible thing to do. But considering some of the sentences the same police forces, the same judges have handed out to sex offenders and stuff like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's another example of two-tier justice in this country.
Jonathan, the thing about all of this is I've seen again and again, historically speaking, whenever there are things like this, certain types of government will exploit them in order to push through further censorship and further authoritarianism.
Sure.
And by the way, just to be clear, I'm not justifying any of the riots. I think those people should be prosecuted. But these changes to the law and all the rest of it, you've seen it before. When we had the murder of David Amos, they started talking about, let's crack down on online speech, even though this was to do with Islamic terror, nothing to do with mean tweets.
But I think we saw a lot of it...
A degree of opportunism is what I'm saying.
I totally agree, and I think we saw a lot of it during COVID with, all the... wasn't this originally brought in to try and quell that misinformation during the COVID era? And then Rishi said no. I can't fully remember. It's a long time ago. I was on a lot of drugs. But yeah, there does seem to be this creeping authoritarianism, and it will never waste a good crisis.
No, absolutely. OK, well, we're going to move on now to the front cover of Saturday's Guardian. Jonathan, what are they running with?
They are running with universities face tipping point as money runs out. Boo-hoo. So English universities face a tipping point this autumn that could push some into financial crisis, according to vice-chancellors who say urgent intervention may be needed to stop institutions going under.
Because the visa modifications means that we no longer have so many. We've had a radical drop in foreign students.
By about a third, I think.
And foreign students do pay something like 4 times as much as domestic students. So this will hit universities hard. Presumably that's to do with...
I agree. I know. I think that is a considerable part of it. But I think there also might be students not necessarily wanting to go to the
realising that university isn't all it's cracked up.
Well, I think we've seen a lot of that. A lot of, first of all, we've seen a lot of Mickey Mouse degrees, people paying for not getting paid afterwards. We'll come back to that later. We've also seen these institutions sort of becoming protest cretin factories.
Yeah, I mean that is true, isn't it, Leo? Cretin factories might be a strong way of putting it, but it has become a hotbed of activism, and people used to go for knowledge and the pursuit of truth. Not waving placards and dyeing your hair pink.
Yeah, now you get taught what to think rather than sort of how to think.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what they need money for. How much money do you need for a bunch of sort of smelly communists to sit around giving people terrible ideas?
Do you think universities are now overrated?
They were overrated decades ago. When I went to university...
You went to university,
I went to university and I couldn't...
You got diddled by the doctor there.
I did.
You got what?
You got diddled by the university doctor.
In what way? What do you mean?
In the classic way.
As in tricked or...
No, sexually assaulted. But it's a funny story.
Wow.
So I'm really glad Jonathan brought it up.
We're not on air, are we?
Okay. No, it's Dr. What was his name? Alan Buchan, I think it was, at Stirling University. You can Google it. I didn't know I'd been diddled. I only found out afterwards when...
Are you allowed to say this stuff? This isn't like some libelous thing.
This is it's in the papers. He got convicted for it. Not for me though. I didn't even know. I just thought he had to check my dick.
Where did he touch you, Leo?
The doctor, you wouldn't know because they are quite intimate. That's part of the job, right?
Yeah, you trust them. But then there was somebody who went back like 3 times, each time with a different ailment, and each time got their testicles felt, and then they were like, well, that...
What's his name?
Dr. Alan.
No, I think he wants to... Anyway, let's...
You're teaching it... Oh, we're moving on.
Let's move on, because that went in a direction I didn't anticipate.
Like his appointment.
Let's try and focus on the Financial Times. We don't normally do the Financial Times, but Leo is particularly interested in one of the stories. What's the front cover story you're attracted to?
So this is the war in Ukraine, which is still going on, even though, you know, obviously something like this, as it simmers, it's off the front pages a lot. But the battle rages in Russia now as Kyiv advances in the war's largest counter-incursion. So Ukrainian forces who are, you know, defending borders on their own land. The Russians are on their own land and occupying Ukraine. Ukraine has actually gone into Russia in the Kursk region and seized 350 square kilometres and done a huge amount of damage. We've seen these sort of cross-border excursions before. Usually they last for a couple of days. You know, they plant a flag or whatever and come back, and it's usually Russian nationalists fighting, you know, for Ukraine. Yes. And this time it's actual Ukrainian troops. It's a strange move because the Ukrainian front is collapsing on other parts of the border. So those troops are really needed elsewhere. But they have seized a gas transit hub that brings gas to Europe. That's probably going to be a lot of leverage if they have any talks.
So this
and they're on their way to seize a nuclear power station. So that's a big deal.
So you think this could actually be some kind of turning point? Because we often hear about these incursions going back and forth, but it all kind of balances out.
At the start, I thought it was silly, but, you know, Ukraine is really good at, you know, doing quite smart things, right. And I think they're also luring Russian troops into a trap. They've already slaughtered like hundreds of Russian troops. They took out 2 columns of Russian vehicles. They're soldiers who are going to Ukraine to, you know, rape and kill. So don't feel too sorry for them.
Jonathan,
yes. I'm just wondering when it's gonna hopefully eventually reach a peaceful solution.
Well, I mean, we're all...
Can't we all just get along?
We all want.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like they've made some real ground here, but I don't know what that would mean in the grand scheme of things. But...
No, well, who does? OK, we're going to move on now to this story. This is on the front cover of the iNews. Jonathan, your favourite paper?
Yes, my favourite paper. We normally do a fun one for Section 4, but...
Well, it's the I.
Not today,
Easy to spell.
Yeah, true. OK, so the headline is, Reeves eyes fuel duty hike in budget, but voters are opposed. So...
It's an odd headline, that. Reeves eyes... They're using eyes as a verb.
Eyes,
so
to eye.
Confusing. What's she eyeing?
She's eyeing up the possibility of filling a massive deficit that the Tories have left in the budget, and she wants to do that by potentially increasing the levy, which on gas, or what do we call it, petrol?
We call it petrol.
That's how I can't remember.
Jonathan, is this the 20 billion black hole?
That is a black hole.
She didn't notice. She didn't notice it, even though it was the Labour Party were alerted to this before they wrote the manifesto. But it suddenly hit them.
Yeah.
Weird, isn't it?
And they had access to the same documents and the same advisors.
Oh, yeah, they were told.
But if
she must have forgotten.
But if you're backbenching, you're not going to, like,
No, she's got a lot to remember. Give her a break. I mean, so basically they're going to
Well, they want to, but
hiking prices.
The voters are very against this, and, basically people are saying, well, you know, people have the cost of living crisis, all that stuff. This is just another thing that's going to attack the less well-paid masses.
For the budget.
And they're going to bloat the public sector as well. So there were plans to slash the civil service by 60,000 because, you know, they took on extra staff during COVID, which were unnecessary then, or definitely unnecessary now. And, you know, really we need a Javier Milei to come in and just completely slash the public sector. But Labour know that they can buy votes by hiring more public sector workers. If you look at all the supposed anti-fascist protesters, they're all public sector workers. This is all... We're living in a communist state.
Yeah, well, we need that bonfire of the Quangos. It's overdue.
Yeah.
They particularly take a hammer to the civil service.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely captured. Ridiculous. Anyway, that's all we've got time for in this section. But coming up in part 2, we've got the latest on social media censorship, a potential UK blasphemy law, and Kamala Harris has agreed to do an interview. Finally. See you in a minute.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Royal biographer, very good friend of mine, Angela Levin. Angela, good to see you again. This is, you have to say, quite typical of the couple. They say one thing and do another. Britain's too dangerous, but Colombia isn't.
Well, yes. I mean, it's just fascinating that the UK Foreign Office has said to people that they mustn't go unless it's absolutely essential, because it is dangerous at the moment, especially in a place called Calais, where they have a list of that's where one of the things that they're going to go. And the KGB in Calais has got 80% of global cocaine. So, and also they're doing a lot of taking people away and asking for money to give them back. So it is really ridiculous. And it actually conforms with my long-term suggestion that they try to manipulate the king and bring him to, stressfully to help him. And of course, it won't happen, but that's what Harry's trying. I mean, to have 3 court cases on the Home Office when they keep saying the same thing, and he's trying and trying and trying, because that's why he won't bring his wife, that's why he won't bring his children. But really, it's a nonsense, because he would be very looked after with good protection people, but not the very, very top of the tree, which is really just for Camilla, Charles, and William and Catherine. There's a distance in the level, and it's not taking our money, our tax money, to pay for it. It comes out of another pocket.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Saturday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle, and I'm joined by Leo Kearse and Jonathan Cogan. So we're going to begin this section with Saturday's Telegraph, and Keir Starmer is playing David to the Goliaths of tech.
So tech giants will be forced to ban fake news under Labour plans. So firms could be required to suppress posts even if they're not illegal. This relates to fake news and also legal but harmful content. So this is the potential crackdown on tech companies would form part of a review of the Online Safety Act, which was passed last year and was already quite controversial and quite, it's so, like all this legislation around hate crime and all that sort of stuff, it's so badly worded, vaguely worded.
Well, that phrase, legal but harmful, I mean, we have to be honest, that did come from the Tories. This whole Online Safety Act came from the Tories. Labour are just sort of beefing it up a bit in their very authoritarian way.
The old Schofield thing, unwise but not illegal. Was that not an equivalent?
It's not the same, Jonathan. But I worry about legal but harmful because basically that's all your tweets, Leo.
Yeah, anything can be perceived as harmful. What about, something that's like parachute lessons that you're watching on YouTube? Because people die when they're parachuting or horse riding. So that could be seen as something that needs to be shut down. How to prepare a martini, because alcohol is harmful.
Why don't we just have the distinction of legal and illegal?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's all we need.
Of course.
That worked for ages. And what about satire? What about useful speculation? I know a lot of speculation can be harmful. And also, what about Labour's misinformation? I mean, David Lammy said that men can grow a cervix.
Yes.
And men cannot grow a cervix. So there might be men out there, because they've listened to David Lammy, at home eating hormones, desperately trying to grow a cervix.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, the whole cervix growing thing. Jonathan, are you worried about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything where there's a very nebulous definition of what harmful could be, it's only going to be used, we'd hope it would be used properly, or if at all, but it's only going to be used to censor speech.
Yeah, but anything could be harmful.
Yeah,
like
horror
if
films.
you're talking about emotional harm.
Yeah.
That's basically anything. Like, I could be harmed by this mug. I could be traumatised because maybe someone threw a mug at me once, which they actually did.
Yeah, I could be harmed because Jonathan brought up a traumatic experience from my youth.
He did that just 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, we're essentially becoming a really rubbish version of China. So, China has all this controls over what people can say, but it's in aid of national unity and national pride. Instead of, in the UK, it's to wipe out national unity and to wipe out national pride.
And we don't have the productivity.
And under communists, what they do is they bring out laws that are so ridiculous everybody has broken them, which this essentially is, and then you can just pick and choose who you want to punish.
Do we have to leave the country?
Where are we going to go?
I don't know.
Mars.
Well, mate, just somewhere where, we're allowed freedom of speech. That old chestnut.
The Americas.
Well, who knows? They have a First Amendment, so they're one ahead of us. Anyway, let's move on to the Daily Mail. Labour. Now, more good news on the free speech front. They're thinking of some sweet little blasphemy laws. What's going on here?
I gosh darn hope not. That'd be awful. Yeah. So, there we go. It started already. Labour warned against introducing a blasphemy law by adopting an official definition of Islamophobia after far-right riots. So, as it stands in law, enshrined in law, there isn't currently an official legally binding definition of Islamophobia in the UK. However, the Labour government are trying to define one and enshrine it into law. But the worry is here that by enshrining such a term, they are also going to, either accidentally or on purpose, however you want to look at it, be bringing in blasphemy laws.
But they've already did this. They had this all-party parliamentary group looking at what it should be, and it was something along the lines of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness, which is such a bizarre phrase. The other thing, again, like all of this was a cross-party thing. This started with the Tories. It's like all that Labour are doing are taking the worst elements of what the Tories have done and just exacerbating them, just sending them through the limit. We don't need this because Islamophobia is a nonsense term anyway, and what it tends to do is wrap up anti-Muslim hatred, so the people genuinely who are just horrible to people if they see them dressed in burqas or whatever, and it conflates them with legitimate criticism or indeed mockery of religion, which we should be all allowed to do.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
Absolutely. And yeah, a lot of hate speech laws sort of stray into blasphemy laws because, if anything is perceived to be hurtful, then it can be illegal.
Yes.
So yeah, I think if we want to confront and demolish stereotypes, we need to clamp down on people who commit crimes that reinforce racial stereotypes. So, if somebody does something that then reinforces a stereotype, that's the real hate crime.
Is that how you want to run things?
Yeah.
Can you give an example?
That's an excellent idea. So, for example, if a Scottish person is aggressive begging, then they get twice as much time as they would.
This is really, really worrying, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, no one wants... But the thing is that a lot of the crimes they're worried about, throwing a brick at a mosque, pulling someone's burqa off in the street, those are already illegal. That's against the law. Mocking a religion should never be against the law if we're in a free country.
We're not in a free country.
Apparently we're not. OK. Let's move on to this story. This is The Telegraph now. More troublemakers. What's this?
So counter-protesters have been jailed after attacking white men wearing the Union flag or Union Jack. So
apparently Jerry Halliwell hasn't left the house since.
Is she still wearing that dress?
It doesn't fit anymore, but no, she's. Oh God, look. I'm all right. I'm chubby. Yeah. I'm a chubby guy now. I'm a big, beautiful man.
So 2 men have been, it's like in the show with Lewis, 2 men have been jailed for an attack on pro-EDL. They call them pro-EDL.
The EDL was disbanded.
The EDL is disbanded. It was disbanded in 2013. These are basically English guys. English guys who are being openly English. You're not allowed to be openly English. You've got to hide your shame of being English. Don't show a flag. Oh my God, what do you think you are?
Yeah, but wrapped in a Union Jack.
You think you belong to some sort of nation state? You don't. You belong to a beige blob. You belong to the Uniparty.
Okay.
You're not allowed. Other people from other countries, they're allowed a country and a nation state, but Britain belongs to everyone and nobody. But yeah, so these.
But they did get arrested. Like,
to the credit, absolutely.
So these are Muslim guys. A guy called Ghafoor who attacked these men, and I saw the footage. It was horrible. They beat them. And it was a mob of them. There's only two of the white guys that they attacked. So it was a nasty, cowardly mob attack, and they kicked and beat them. And it was horrible. Whipped up by some of the lies spread by Labour and spread by Hope Not Hate. So
will they be receiving a knock on the door from the police?
Oh, I doubt it. I think you're allowed to break the law and spread misinformation if you're on the same side as the Labour Party.
Is that the rule? Jonathan,
yes.
I mean, we talk about two-tier policing. This does show that the police are
100%
taking seriously.
I was going to say that because there's been a lot of worry and discourse about how people aren't being treated equally, both sides of it. But here we're seeing that people have been arrested and convicted with the same, if not very similar, sentences.
You're good. I mean, again, like, just apply the law.
How it should be,
That's
100%.
all anyone wants. Just apply the law equally. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Just apply the law, and that will solve everything. Would have solved everything back in the day of the grooming gang scandal, but, you know. We learn our lessons, don't we? Let's move on to this one. This is Saturday's Express. This is another story about Starmer versus Musk. Who is Nigel Farage siding with?
Oh, he doesn't like to wade in on things. He likes a quiet life.
Yeah, he's very, very quiet. Shy and retired type,
yes.
Yeah.
So Nigel Farage responds to Elon Musk after he makes bold claim about the UK.
What's the bold claim?
So the bold claim he has made is that so Elon Musk has Farage said Musk has asked the question, why do the UK media, with few exceptions, just parrot the government? I'd like to thank Leo for finding it on the page and pointing it. Thank you, I was lost.
I know where it is. Yeah. He was actually asking the question to me on Twitter.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm Bezos with Musk.
You're chatting with Musk.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that.
Musker. Yeah.
Hopefully, he can get me a visa for America. I can get out of here.
Or Mars.
So wait, so you've been having a chat with Musk, and the claim he made to you was what? That
well, after he'd said no, you can't borrow 20 quid. He said, why do the UK media, with a few exceptions, just parrot the government?
Okay. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, why do they?
Well, Farage chimed in, and he basically said it was groupthink. He says, when everyone gets together with groupthink and says open borders are fantastic, come on, everybody, we don't care. Shall I do his voice? We don't care whether you speak or... That's Simon Evans. Our share values. We don't care about the population explosion, meaning our kids can't get help. Basically saying, this is the groupthink, this is the ideology that most politicians have, and it's all very nice, but it's ignoring a reality.
You know what would be great? What we need is a channel where you get voices from different sides of the political spectrum to sit down and talk.
Talk TV.
Well, the other issue with that is Labour will obviously look to shut down GBNews.
Yeah. You think?
I can see it coming. I can see they're already making the noises because they don't want anybody to question them. They want the entire media class to come from the same cabal as themselves with the same opinions.
It's really distressing. It bothers me that people on the left don't support what GB News is doing. You always get left-wing voices on the shows. You always get right-wing voices. That's the ideal, right?
Yeah, but left-wing people will wake up when we do descend into Venezuela, because freedom of speech is closely tied to freedom of economy and the actual prosperity. So once people are eating their dogs, I think they'll think, well, wait a minute, maybe we should go back to having a free society.
I'm feeling very pessimistic after tonight's show. Nothing positive. Let's see if we can do a positive story.
Okay, what's next?
And this is from the Daily Mail. Kamala Harris. Oh, well, that blows down. What's this about?
So Kamala Harris said she will sit down for a media interview by the end of August after being repeatedly criticised by Republicans for not doing one. And that's pretty much it. I mean, she's spending Friday campaigning in Arizona as part of her battleground state tour with her running mate, Tim Walz, who has been criticised. He was in the National Guard, which is like, I think it's the army, but you just do America, so it's quite a safe bit of the army to do.
Like the territorial army.
Yeah.
Right.
So he was in the National Guard for 20 years, and then was informed it was being deployed for Iraq, and said, "Oh, wait a minute, I've decided I want to do this other thing now."
Okay. So he didn't like that. It was a kind of dad's army situation.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not doing that. It's interesting, isn't it? Because whenever Kamala Harris goes off script and is caught off script, she's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's like me. It's like, we've been encumbered by what comes. I get it. I empathise. I'm a white dude for Harris. Well, I'm a white dude. I'm white. I don't know.
Well,
am I?
God love her. But yeah, don't let her do that interview. It'll be disastrous. That's it for part 2. Do join us after the break. We'll be discussing the BBC trying to recoup cash, why British universities should be a bit worried, and news of bullying at the Ministry of Defence. See you in 2.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather coming to you from the Met Office. Things are going to hot up as we go through, particularly the latter part of this weekend, especially in the southeast. But before then, tomorrow will be a bit cloudy and a bit damp for some of us because we are going to see a bit of a frontal wave pushing its way in, and that's going to lead to increasing amounts of cloud as we go through the rest of this evening and overnight. But ahead of that, some clearer skies, and we're going to cling on to the clearer skies across eastern parts, but all the time a few showers across parts of Scotland, still pushing through on relatively brisk winds. In the west, where we have that cloud and that rain feeding in, temperatures aren't going to drop much. A bit fresher, though, towards eastern parts where we have some clearer skies. So that cloud and any outbreaks of rain will gradually make their way eastwards across England and Wales as we go through the day tomorrow. So whilst eastern parts will start off the day quite bright, it is going to turn a bit grey later on, and watch out for some heavy rain over the hills towards the west as well. A brighter start a bit further north, lots of fine weather for Northern Ireland, just a few showers, similar for northwest England. Whilst across Scotland there'll be quite a few showers around, perhaps something a little bit more persistent for a time, could be a little bit heavy, and there will be some blustery winds, although the winds not quite as strong as they have been through today. A largely grey, cloudy picture across much of England and Wales through large chunks of the day, but we should start to see something a little bit brighter developing from the west later on as that all pushes away towards the east. Temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than today across northern parts and feeling it with those lighter winds, but further towards the southeast, similar temperatures getting into the mid-20s. Now into Sunday, there could be a fair bit of cloud across central southern parts for a time, perhaps the odd spot of rain, but otherwise it's looking largely bright and a good deal of sunshine around, and with that we are going to be dragging in some hotter air, so temperatures rising, high 20s on Sunday. By Monday we're looking at low 30s in the southeast, but the risk of thunderstorms for some. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Saturday's newspapers. We're going to start with The Telegraph. The BBC asking Huw Edwards for their money back. Jonathan?
Yes, they have asked for his money back. So BBC asked Huw Edwards to return more than £200,000 from salary. So
this is money paid to him after the charges?
Yeah, that is right. This is money he took after the charges, and they're saying he's taken it and behaved in bad faith. Now, they've asked for it back, not in any legal sense, but in a moral gesture. Yeah, basically.
Really?
Yeah, the BBC said... seriously, the BBC...
With that.
Yeah. Well, they said the presenter has brought the BBC into disrepute and behaved in bad faith by continuing to take the money.
So wait a minute. Legally, they can't actually demand it back.
I think so, yeah.
As a display, because people were saying, well, the BBC shouldn't have paid him all this money, but they kind of had to contractually.
Yeah.
But they know they're not getting it back, right?
I don't think. I mean, unless Huw suddenly becomes a lot more moral than he's been up till now.
I don't.
Can he just click the thing that says he's paid it and then just watch iPlayer anyway? That's something else. I don't know.
I like how they say he brought the BBC into disrepute. Oh, yeah, they had such a good reputation before that. He was the first one.
They were doing pretty well, Leo.
I think they're going to send Mr. Blobby round to collect it and break his thumbs.
OK, we're with the Daily Mail now. This is some really disturbing news from Iraq. What is going on?
So Iraq proposes lowering the legal age of marriage for girls to 9. So many Iraqi marriages are conducted informally and unregistered, so the revisions would allow figures from Sunni and Shia religious sects to finalise unions between people in law. But critics fear that it'll allow girls as young as 9 and boys as young as 15 to marry. And under Keir Starmer, you'd go to jail for Islamophobia if you protested against it. But people are protesting against it in Baghdad, which is probably an even more dangerous place to protest than the UK is.
This is interesting, because this is a conservative coalition who are demanding this.
Yeah.
But actually the people aren't happy about it. People really are protesting.
Yeah.
So, like, we can look on and say, oh, that sounds really horrible and vile, but the people in the country don't want it. It's just a bunch of clerics.
Yeah, so this is conservative as in religious, rather than... It's not like our conservatives who...
No, I got that.
Rishi Sunak would be like, right, you know what we're doing, guys.
Yeah, maybe our Lib Dems, but not our conservatives.
So, I mean, Jonathan, that's really disturbing.
Yeah, very disturbing. And it really, I mean, we can all just hope that it can be brought in. I think it's because there's too...
Islamophobic.
Very Islamophobic.
Oh, dang.
But it does raise an important point, doesn't it? Because people always go on about cultural relativism. You can't make judgments between cultures. You have to... Sometimes certain cultural practices are worthy of judgment.
I think that's fair to say.
And say some cultures are better than other cultures at certain things. Like this, or female genital mutilation, or wrapping women up and beating them with sticks if they don't do what they're told.
Yeah. Keir Starmer is... You're going to get 3 years for each one of those things on that list.
Is that Islamophobia?
Yeah, that could genuinely be listed as...
Saying that I don't think it's good that 9-year-olds are forced to marry is Islamophobia.
But I read in The Guardian that it's actually intersectional feminism for 9-year-olds to get married.
Is that right?
Let me check. Yes.
I think that's probably true. OK, let's move on. This is now the Daily Mail. And what's this? This is another gender story. What's this one about?
So, renowned paediatrician behind report demolishing NHS's entire gender treatment model for children warns trans patients are being left to make their own mistakes by gender clinics.
This is Hilary Cass,
yes,
who authored the Cass Review. And she's concerned now not just about the model for kids, but for adults too, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So the concerns that she outlined were about patients being given hormone treatment on their second visit to the doctor. So after having one consultation, beginning hormone treatment the second time they visit. And then a lot of the reports done by these doctors were kind of boilerplate, not specific to the person or the individual coming.
Yes.
So yeah, something like this should be very nuanced and specific to the person.
I mean, I actually have to say, the way that Dr. Hilary Cass has conducted herself with this whole thing, she's always so measured, she's always so polite. They say this is very robust, but by her standards, she's just always she knows what she's talking about. She spent years and years studying this, and she's had to face threats and all sorts of stuff, and also just things like the British Medical Association saying, we should just ignore that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, this stuff.
Yeah, and doctors have written to the British Medical Association saying, this association doesn't represent us, even though, it kind of does. But yeah, I say, just let them do it. The NHS has set up a detransitioning clinic where they can grow you a new penis in an agar dish. So, yeah, just let people flip-flop between the two genders as they see fit. At this point, I'm just like, yeah, whatever you want to do. If you want to sterilise...
though.
No, it's all the liberal parents' kids. So, if liberals want to remove their DNA from the gene pool and make their family, tear families apart...
Though, is it? It's not the kids' fault that they've been raised in these terrible families.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But if I stop them, I'm a bad person. So, yeah, sure, make your own mistakes.
Yeah. What do you make of this, Jonathan, in terms of adults as well? Because I've always said people should be free to do whatever they want with their own bodies if they're an adult. On the other hand, if I went to the doctor and said I'd like part of my body removed, for no other reason than it doesn't feel like it's innately
that tattoo you got back in.
Well, that's different. I actually do want that removed, but we're not going to talk about that. I would still say the doctor has an ethical duty to say, actually, no, I'm not going to castrate you. I think that would be fair enough.
Yeah, no, I think, especially jumping on these kind of treatments after one consultation.
Well, that's one of the things it says, isn't it?
Yeah.
And some kids had the same thing. They were put on hormones after just one meeting.
Yeah.
That's not enough. It's never enough.
But if you even question it, then it's literal transgenocide and you're an evil right-wing bigot. It's amazing the things that make you a far-right... In fact, anything to do with keeping kids safe makes you a far-right bigot.
Isn't that interesting?
These
How the world has changed. Anyway, we're going to move on now. The Guardian, very bad news for British universities. Leo, what's going on?
So the number applying to work or study in the UK falls by more than a third. So the people seeking skilled work, health and care or study visas drops to 91,300 in July. This is after the curbs introduced by the Tories. Still sounds like quite a lot, 91,000 in 1 month, plus whoever can get here on some that floats. So the number has fallen. For health and care visas, it's fallen really dramatically, 82%. It's down 82% to 2,900, while the number of people applying to study has fallen by just 15%.
It's bad news for the universities. They are struggling financially.
They are struggling financially, and study visas are often a sort of de facto working visa.
Yeah,
or it certainly was when I applied for one to work in Canada.
Surely, we talk about immigration and people's concerns about unfettered immigration, but, students studying for... that seems like a reasonable thing to encourage.
No, I would agree, but what would be the reasoning behind people not wanting to apply now was because if they wanted to study, they wanted to study, right? So why would it necessarily make a difference if they could bring
visas?
No, they can get the visas. They can't bring their families over.
Yeah, that's the thing that stopped, because people, obviously, when you go to university, the first thing you think is, oh, I need my mum and my dad and my uncle and my brothers and all the rest of it here.
Yeah.
So,
washing machines are difficult. I don't know how to use them.
You don't have Freshers Week without them. You know what I mean?
I know people who went to university in the furthest possible town away from where they grew up because they wanted that independence. Anyway, Jonathan, going to look at this one. Ministry of Defence, bullying.
Yes.
Shocking.
Very shocking, although it has gone down from previous years, but we'll get to that. So, Ministry of Defence pays out £1.7 million to bullying, harassment and discrimination claims last year.
Is that just because it's an army thing? Like, you know, they have that culture of, you know, tough love?
I mean, I think there will definitely be a very kind of sort of masculine, extreme, not necessarily bullying, but like, you know, bantery, and probably a lot of bullying as well. Yeah, I think there will be a lot of that. You get that certainly more in the army than you would say. No, you get a lot in musical theatre. You get it everywhere.
In musical theatre?
Yeah, I was gonna do like the kind of, but then like I know some absolute biatches. But
yeah, there's a lot of bullying everywhere. I mean, what do you think, Leo? I mean, is it? I mean, obviously, if people are being mistreated, then there should be.
And it's sort of groping and stuff like that. It's not.
I mean,
just bullying.
that can't go on.
Yeah, and it's a huge organisation, so I think we've got to take that into account.
Right.
So
actually, 1.7 million is not that bad.
I don't think it's that bad, and I think, you know,
that's half of Scotland's military budget.
We've got I don't think Scotland's got a military budget, but we've got. I literally don't think it does. But we've got you know, one of the best behaved militaries in the world, comparatively, one of the best militaries in the world. So yeah, I don't really see this as a huge issue.
OK, well, we've just got the final section to go, but do stay with us for more news about politicians fighting Elon Musk, the Lake District coping with antisocial campers, and bad news for arachnophobes. Don't go anywhere.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
Well, I'm joined now by royal biographer and former royal photographer, Ian Lloyd. Ian.
Hello, Jacob. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be great, isn't it? The opportunity to go around and see where the King comes onto the balcony from. Really interesting insight to how Buckingham Palace works.
It's exciting. I went yesterday, there was a press preview, and the thing that struck me first of all is that if you're the King and or the late Queen and you're on the balcony, you can't see the Mall. I mean, we all see people coming down from the top, you know, thousands of people crowding in towards Buckingham Palace. They can't see it because of this great monument to Queen Victoria called the Queen Victoria Memorial, or they call it the wedding cake, but it blocks the view. So apparently the King has a TV in there, and the late Queen did as well. So what they do is they when they're waiting to come on, they're watching the TV to see how the crowd's getting nearer the palace. And the other thing that struck me is when we were on it looking down, is you can actually see individual faces in the crowd out there, because we looked out, you know. So they do get a good view of what's happening directly underneath the palace, you know.
So they can see individuals. So if there's a friendly face in the crowd, they can see that person and possibly even wave. But they can't see that enormous mass of people you get at the big events that goes back towards Admiralty Arch.
The other thing I learned is there's a great historical link, because the person that put the east wing on the palace, because it was originally 3 sides, and Queen Victoria had, of course, 9 children, so they had to build a 4th side for all the nurseries and things. Edward Blord was the architect, but the master builder was Thomas Cubitt.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Saturday's newspapers. We're going to begin this final section with the Daily Mail. And X is no longer welcome in Venezuela.
Yeah, so Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has blocked his country's access to X, which is what people call Twitter now, for 10 days after Elon Musk labelled him a dictator and a clown. So they've been at loggerheads, they've been arguing. I think they've been threatening violence at each other. You know,
Wow.
here would send them down forever. These people would never see the light of day again. But Maduro recently stole the election. He was the incumbent
he's the dictator.
president. He's a dictator basically, and he just blatantly stole.
Careful, you get banned from Venezuelan Twitter.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's the one place that's actually less free than the UK, so I don't want to go there. But in a speech to pro-government groups, Mr. Maduro said, Elon Musk is the owner of X and has violated all the rules of the social network itself. He added that Mr. Musk has incited hatred with his comments. The Venezuelan leader also accused his opponents of using X to cause political unrest in the wake of his re-election.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Does that remind you of anybody?
Yes.
It's exactly like Keir Starmer. What is it with these left-wing? What is it with these communist dictators?
So anyone criticising you is inciting hatred. We have heard that before.
I like how he's saying, well, how dare you call me a dictator? And just to prove that I'm not, I'm going to block Twitter for 10 days.
What I like about this is, like, back in the old days, if you said something that you got you in trouble on Twitter, you get 7 days. You get a 7-day ban.
Yeah.
And now you've got a country giving Twitter a 10-day ban. It's like just one-upmanship, isn't it?
I mean, they're the highest source of income, Venezuela.
Is that right?
Twitter. I think so, yeah. Well, the advertising.
Elon Musk doesn't care, does he? Of
course not.
He just says exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
Although we have heard recently, haven't we, like the Crown Prosecution Service or the police here saying they might try and extradite people from abroad, influencers who they perceive to be stirring up hatred.
Yeah.
I would like to see them go after Musk.
Yeah.
That would be kind of incredible.
And he's also in some legal battles at the moment with advertising cabals that have withdrawn advertising. So he's suing them, and that could have big ramifications for free speech as well.
I wonder if that will happen here, because I think some companies over here are being boycotted by advertisers.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, just heard somewhere on the grapevine. Anyway, let's move on now. Telegraph. Apparently, some degrees aren't worth having. Jonathan, do you regret your BTEC in clown studies?
I went to Lecoq, thank you.
I know, it's the French thing.
Yeah. So,
and that
as well. So, okay, the Mickey Mouse degrees, that could damage your career prospects. Okay, so I've learned from this article that the average university degree leaves graduates with £45,600 in debt.
That's mental.
That is a lot, but some have even ballooned to as much as £230,000. And this is the UK, not America, where it's completely insane.
See, I had a full maintenance grant. I just left with some piddling student loan. It was brilliant. Whereas these guys, poor kids, like they're leaving with all this money. What's the point in going?
Well, I mean, especially when these degrees, the worst of them being apparently geography, drama.
Drama's the number one. And so drama, they say the average salary is only 23,000.
Yes. For an actor, pretty good going.
That's
You're in full-time work at that point.
Like, if you're on profit share for fringe production, that 23 grand's not bad. But then geography, business studies, biomedical science. I'm annoyed about this, though, because even English literature, apparently people are ending up with an average salary of 26 grand. That's a staple of UK academia, or it should be.
Yeah, and also stuff like biomedical science.
Yeah.
How can you be poor doing that's not a fun degree. That's not
like Mickey
drama.
Mouse degree.
Yeah,
I mean, that just seems like a really odd... Mickey
After
Mouse
the pandemic.
Like media studies or something, isn't it? It's not...
Which I did.
It's anything with the word studies in the title.
Women study. Yeah, I know. It's like... but then again, this is the average salary. I feel like a lot of people who study drama and English just didn't want to work.
Loads of my friends did drama, and they're doing... Actually, no, they're not necessarily doing that well, but some of them are doing well. So, I mean, I think this is really unfair. Well,
I don't know. I think just university's done.
Let's move on, Leo. This is the Telegraph, and what's this? This is a mindless numpties ruining the Lake District.
Yes, mindless numpties are ruining the Lake District. I thought numpties was a Scottish term, but it's used here.
Yeah, English.
All right, cool. So groups of fly campers, this is a new term.
What's that?
It's like, I guess you get fly tippers. This is fly campers. They turn up, and because camping equipment is so cheap now, they just discard it, and they have fires, and they leave beer cans and all the rest of it.
I've seen people do that at Latitude.
At a festival, though, that's part of the ticket.
No, someone has to clean it up.
Yeah, they're paying for it.
But they pay, some skivvies to come along and pick it up for them. But in the Lake District, there's no paid hires coming in to pick the stuff up. So people are coming across, rubbish strewn around and frying pans and all the rest of it.
Wow.
When I was a kid going camping, I mean, tents cost a fortune, were very heavy.
Yeah.
You definitely took your tent home with you. You didn't just discard it after
like
one
a tenner
use.
now from Argos.
Yeah. So that's part of the problem. And also, I think people just aren't. They're even live streaming it on Instagram or whatever, on TikTok.
Or just leaving it all.
Yeah, and just streaming their party.
Litter bugs.
Yeah.
I think bring back the death.
Leave no trace, guys. Come on, Burning Man, leave no trace.
I think this comes back to in the UK communal ground, the common ground that you used to graze your sheep on or whatever. It's just, people just treat it terribly.
This tragedy of the commons.
This is the tragedy of the commons.
Yes, I knew something.
People say, whoever can just come here wherever they can stay wherever. Not in my house. Private property still has value, but common ground has no value anymore.
OK, well, we're going to move on to this grotesque story. Mini monsters invading our homes. What's this?
This is horny spiders to invade UK homes in their thousands as arachnid season begins.
We should say this is the Daily Star before people are confused as to why it's such a frivolous, silly article.
Well, yes, well said. So, I mean, I don't like September because that's when all the spiders come in. And I don't mind spiders, but I don't love them. They just appear and they look at you, and these ones are horny. And I've seen them eye me up like they were Leo's doctor. And it's just scary, horrible stuff.
When they say horny spiders, do they just mean this is the season when spiders reproduce?
They reproduce, they sort of say lewd comments at you, they wolf whistle, yeah.
Because in the article, it describes them as the lusty beasts.
Lusty beasts.
It's an old way to describe a spider.
That's my internet handle.
That's why I mentioned it. What do you think about this, Leo? Are you scared of spiders? Are you an arachnophobe?
I actually put one outside this week.
Oh, you did? In a glass?
2 nights. Yeah, I got it in a glass.
OK.
How big?
And put it outside. It was big. I'll leave the small ones in, but the big ones, I'm like, no, you can't stay.
But this is the thing, like, you actually want them in the house.
Well,
no, you do, because they get rid of the flies.
But there are no flies.
Yeah, but not the big one. The big ones take down... I mean, this one must have taken down pigeons or something.
But you don't want pigeons in the house either.
Yeah, but I never have any pigeons, so it doesn't get any food, so it's going to eat my food.
I think you need spiders. Spiders
they are
really
grim
good for you. Honestly, because flies, flies vomit onto the food, mash the vomit into the food, suck it back up, spit it. I mean, they're disgusting.
Yeah, and they land
like a raw vegan.
They land on like wet dog poo and stuff, and then land on your food.
Absolutely horrible. Very finally, we're just going to have a quick look at this seagull story, Leo.
So seagull insurance has been launched for sandwich shop customers attacked by birds 30 times a day. This is the Cheesy Toast Shack in St Andrews in Scotland. It's become the target of swooping seagulls who, despite the efforts of owners, continue to terrorise their customers.
Well, they do, don't they? They're vicious things.
Yeah, so they get a £1 seagull insurance on all purchases. So if it nicks your sandwich, you get another sandwich.
I've had some chips stolen by a seagull.
Yeah, I saw one take a hash brown from a Wetherspoons once in Bristol.
Outrageous. I had a monkey in Gibraltar steal a bunch of bananas off me.
Having bananas near a monkey was your first mistake.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'm watching enough cartoons.
I should have gone for an ape insurance on Gibraltar.
Yeah.
They should bring that in. Anyway, on that note, show is nearly over. Let's have another quick look at Saturday's front pages. So the Daily Mail is leading with BBC tells villain Huw hand back £200,000 of pay. The Express is running with King calls for unity in wake of riots. The Times has got the same story. King hails riots response. He's talking there about the police. The Telegraph has King calls for unity in the wake of riots. And The Guardian is leading with the university story. Universities face tipping point as money runs out. The Daily Star has a story about people stealing things from work. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for Leo Kearse and to Jonathan Cogan for joining me tonight. Steve N. Allen will be here tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Lewis Schaefer and Adam Kumas. And if you're watching the 5am repeat, please do stay tuned because now it's time for breakfast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of Weather.